Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
It's a little end-timey, but it's Friday, you bastards.
Breaking news tonight, more than 250,000 coronavirus cases recorded in the U.S. In New York, the deadliest day so far.
Who dropped the ball?
Well, I always knew that pandemics are one of the worst things that could happen.
On the front lines, a dire shortage of protective gear.
We have done a job like nobody's ever done a job.
This is life or death.
Nurses are calling it a daily suicide mission.
But as of this morning, people were very, very happy.
We are afraid for our patients. We are afraid for our families. We are afraid for our lives.
Tonight, the economic crisis is spiraling.
You try and make it sound so bad. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You know what? You ought to be ashamed. It's such a simple question.
The devastating economic toll. The government estimating over 700,000 jobs lost in March, while the actual numbers are far worse.
Mr. President, there are news reports that you want to sign the stimulus checks that are going out here in several months. Is that right? Do you want to sign those checks?
Me sign? No.
The underlying unemployment rate today is probably already 10%, if not higher.
This is ending. This will end. You'll see some bad things, and then you're going to see some really good things.
Yeah, and he did insist on signing those checks. That was 4 years ago today, everybody. So if it feels a little end-timey today, just remember we've already been through almost everything. We've been through just about everything. We've been through boils and frog. I mean, the only thing left is really frogs. We've had lice, right? Bed bugs. Remember when we had bed bug epidemics? But this does feel kind of creepy, I have to say. I mean, today was one of those like, maybe this is it. Maybe my life really was just like I always thought, like inside of a diorama in some giant girl's bedroom closet, and that we're all just imagining our own world, and that it will end when our own created world ends. It's like kind of like if I smoked pot, like the crap that would go on in my brain, like that. That's how it feels. But I don't smoke pot, because if I did smoke pot, can you imagine like what would go through my head? But think about what we've just been through. Okay, there were massive earthquakes in Taiwan. Did you see that? The Taiwanese, I'll just call them presenters, news presenters, because I don't know if they're journalists or weather people, but they were so little tiny people that could so easily be knocked over, refusing to walk out of the studio while the giant cameras and the lights above, which weigh a ton, because I have 4 of them in here. They are really, really heavy, these lights, and they're just swaying, and they just keep on doing their gig. They just.
那么现场你们可以看到呢，其实现在我本人在现场几乎站都站不稳了。那尤其我们的天花板几乎是剧烈的摇晃，很多东西都掉下来。也提醒在电视机前的观众朋友呢，务必要小心安全。
我们现在呢，摄影棚天摇地动，我们的摄影棚在8楼左右，现在的晃度是非常明显，而且是上下左右非常明显的晃动，的确是让很多人觉得相当的紧张。而且现在，包括我在镜头前面已经站不准稳了。我们现在马上来看到事情，我们包括摄影棚的上方都有一些器材呢正在往下掉。地震速报已经告诉我们了，在7点58左右呢发生的有感地震，这是非常有感的，能不只是3级左右。大家不要紧张，这个地震感受的确是比较明显的，包括摄影棚都已经有灯架开始在倒下来了，因为摇晃的时间相当长。
She's awesome, man.
No news is that important. I would be running from those lights so fast anytime. I was waiting for this one to fall.
Tough chicks, man. These are some. I mean, they make biker chicks in the U.S. look silly, look stupid, look weak, look old, decrepit. I mean, they just would not give it up. And I don't know if you could read the subtitles, but they were just saying it's moving in all directions, and this must be stressing you out. She actually said that. The Taiwanese weather report. I don't know, what her gig is, but she was like, "This must be stressing." She said, "This must be stressing you out." I was like, "Wow, you are one tough cookie, man." I've never kudos to you, man. I don't know what I would do. I honestly don't, because it was never something that came across my neck of the woods. I lived in L.A. I went to high school in L.A. I don't know how many people remember that, but I did. But I never broadcasted from a studio in L.A. ever. And the reason why I left L.A., I was scared. Earthquakes, yes, freaked me out. But after all that we've been through, and obviously the Middle East, right? Israel's at war, which is pretty end-timey. It's pretty scary stuff, right? All of a sudden, I wake up this morning. Well, it was after I woke up this morning. It was, I was actually sitting there putting the homework together, putting the final touches on it, sending it out so it could be posted. And all of a sudden, there's an earthquake in New Jersey. An earthquake in New... Now, that's DEI. That's wokeness, right? You understand that the only reason why that there was there was snow in April up there, okay? You understand what I'm saying? Snow in April, Middle East is on fire, Israel is at war, we had earthquakes in the Ring of Fire, we have earthquakes now in New Jersey, in Manhattan. And you know what they tell you in an earthquake? They go, stay away from falling, broken glass. To stay away from broken glass in New York, you would have to go upstate. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't even stay there. That is just bizarre. And I'm like, hey, listen, this can't be the end times. It can't. It just can't be, because if it is, then I imagined my whole life. I imagined all this. None of this is real. It was all a magic trick, that some girl was doing in her bedroom in some diorama in the bottom of her closet. It's like, I'm not even real. Nothing's real. Ooh, like that. That's what it would have to be. That's what it would have to be. Earthquakes in New Jersey, earthquakes in Manhattan. So then I started thinking, like, what could it be? Obviously, it's wokeness. Obviously, right? It's boys kissing boys, and that's the reason why New York had an. Please give me a break. I don't know. I don't know what they have. According to I had to listen to Governor Hochul. I had to listen to the mayor over there. The mayor told us, first of all, New York didn't report that they had an earthquake for 40 minutes after, until 40 minutes after it. The official alert from New York City didn't go out till 40 minutes. You would think, they learned something after 9/11. You would think that, alerting people would be something that was in the wheelhouse of the New York City mayor. You would think that that's something that they had conquered, something that they have got down to a... No. In fairness, earthquakes in New York, is just plain weird. And it has to be... So, let's just blame Beyonce, can we? Really? I mean, come on, a country album, Beyonce. I know you're from Houston, but really? No, I mean, it has to be something, because it can't be what Kathy Hochul's saying, oh, well, we have tectonic plates in New York, too. So what are you telling me? Global warming, and that the Earth is getting so heated up that it's actually, changing, the plates are shifting? I mean, what are you telling me? I don't even understand, why this happened today. It was so unbelievable. It's like... I'm waiting for frogs, okay? I am. Ever since the COVID, and that clip that we opened with, that was 4 years ago today. And aren't you glad it's 4 years later? I was, until there was an earthquake in New Jersey. Freaking New Jersey. And so anyway, the Mayor Adams in New York, what he told us? What he said? Because people were going like, why didn't you notify us till 40 minutes after? Why did the official warning come 40 minutes after? What is that about? Why? How have you failed so miserably at your job? In a post 9/11 world. And his advice was just go about your day. So I secretly cursed him out for about 10 minutes. That's normal for a New Yorker. So that was my normal daily activity. Holy crap. Good Lord, man. It really did. I said it the other day. I said it felt very end-timey. And I was told, I'm very optimistic by somebody. Now do you believe me? Now are you getting it? I mean, 4 years ago, we were in the middle of boils and cow lice or something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we were taking ivermectin. We had parasites. Who's still washing their hands?
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
What do you have to lose? I'll say it again. What do you have to lose? Take it. I really think they should take it. But it's their choice. And it's their doctor's choice or the doctors in the hospital. But hydroxychloroquine. Try it, if you'd like.
I mean, if that didn't like end time you in your mind, if that didn't like say, okay, this is it, we're done, we're cooked, it's over. It's just like and I swear to God, hydroxy, take it. It was like being in a Waco, which he obviously understood because that's where he kicked off this year's campaign in Waco, the Branch Davidians' hometown. Okay, a place of an extraordinary, burning of women, children, and religious zealots. That's where he decided that he was going to start this year's campaign. I mean, and it's really strange because we got this booming, jobs report today, a report on the stock market, how the stock market has come, like out of a coma, and it's people are seeing, and nobody is connecting it to themselves, but the booming economy is just such a great recovery, soft landing, the whole 9 yards, and people are saying they're no better off than they were 4 years ago. That's why I'm playing what was going on 4 years ago. 4 years ago. He was saying it was a hoax on one day, the next day saying hydroxychloroquine, the next day ivermectin, the next day put lampshades on your head and shove light bulbs up your bum. I don't even know what the hell he was talking about. Nobody did. And the woman with the scarves, remember, she was standing there going, what, and didn't say anything. No one ever says anything. They just let him lie. They just, let him go. I mean, come on. We've been through so much, but an earthquake in New Jersey? New Jersey, what the hell? Philly, Boston, New York, New Jersey. 4.8 it was. That's big. That's a decent sized earthquake. 4.8. I mean, this is all right. So I don't know which one is the good one, but there was this one. Okay, this was like if you're gonna do earthquake footage in I'm guessing in a home in New Jersey, include an animal because they freak out. They just freak out. It's good. Poor puppy. Oh, crap. Oh.
Yeah, and that's what you see. You can see that stuff falling from the walls. The dog there a little bit freaked out by this, jumping down from the couch when that quake hit. No doubt. This was an earthquake.
Come on. Now, I mean, what do you make of that? What do you think the reason is? CRT? DEI? Wokeness? Beyonce? End times? You know what I'm saying? It's just like it all goes through your head. It all goes. I mean, okay.
We just got to nuke the earthquake, and that'll take care of it.
Yes. Why don't we nuke the hurricanes too?
Nuke all natural weather disasters.
Puerto Rico. Remember him saying Puerto Rico?
Yep.
Oh my God. Please don't make us go back to 4 years ago. Please, because these things are going to happen again. And he's not your guy. Okay, he's not good at it. Let him go be good at what he's good at, which is, putting his name on things and then declaring bankruptcy. That's what he's good at. And what is the deal with this stock? Anybody? I don't understand it. I honestly don't. Where is the SEC? Not that I want to do a deep dive into DJT, okay? Really, I don't. Because it's if you bought it, it's you own it. That's yours. You deal with it. You cope. Because there you had a company that had no growth, a total of 7 million users, no growth. It wasn't getting bigger. It had $58 million worth of debt. He's out there lying now. I think this is also going to get him in trouble. He's out there lying that the company is debt-free and that it's worth much more. Again, the same thing he was just convicted for by Judge Engoron. The same thing he was just fined for, committing business fraud. It's unbelievable to me. It's just like the most. How did the SEC actually allow this stock to be traded based on its real valuation, which was no growth, 7 million users. The revenue it's tiny, and $58 million worth of debt, and people are and they issued it at like what, $50 and went up to like $79, and now it's fallen like a rock. But what is that? Why don't you just go on a cruise and go sit in the casino and put nickels into a slot machine? Oh, you do that too? Okay, that explains a lot. That tells me everything. Robert in California, happy Friday.
Hi, hello?
Yeah.
I want to ask about the Palestinian people.
Okay.
Are they hostages, or are they going with the Hamas people? Because there's over 1 million Palestinians, but there's less Hamas people. Why aren't they fighting them? And again, President Biden talk directly to the Palestinian people and ask them on loudspeaker, fight. Go ahead and fight these people. They're your kidnappers. And that's all I want to say, Randy. Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Allen, Alabama.
Hello.
Hi.
Randy. I would like to speak in opposition to Alabama House of Representative HB 385, excuse me. 385 would make it illegal for sexual objectionable material to be distributed by public librarians.
Well, you better get the Bible right away. Get it out of schools.
Yes, and I have the page for ALHB 385 on Legiscan right in front of me, and it says that on summary, crimes and offenses provided that the use of any premises to distribute material that is harmful to minors and a public nuisance, and further provided for the definition of sexual conduct.
Oh, well, like I said, get the Bible. Get it out of the school right now, or the librarians are going to the hoosgow. They're going to jail. They're going to the lockup.
I read the bill, and it would even make Lord of the Flies and some Kurt Vonnegut material objectionable.
Right. This is Alabama. What do you want? I mean, it's so backwards that it's like chasing its own tail now. It's a race to the bottom. They're literally circling around the drain. And I would just like for everybody to learn one thing, okay? When you look at countries in the Middle East, what does their main problem seem to be? Their main problem seems to be extremism. Their main problem seems to be right-wing lunatic fringe ideas and ideologies, right? I mean, Netanyahu is a right-wing lunatic fringy guy. Look at what he's developed over there. Look at Iran, okay? Also, women wanted to go without covering their head, and they threw them in jail. Now look at
unfortunately, we're going in the same direction.
That's right. You got it. I was going to say, now look at Alabama, and they're going to try and arrest librarians. And
it's going to go for a lot of southern states too. They're going to have the same thing.
Well, it's a race to the bottom across this world by right-wing extremists. Now, why does Iran make women cover? Why? Because they didn't until like 1979 to control women. Same thing here. This is crazy.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All righty, everybody. So before I forget to tell you, we're going to take our little spring break 1 week off next week. Okay, so we will not be in. If you need, any help at all, there's, I'm sure, a hotline somewhere that will help you. Okay. But we will not be here for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then when we come back the following week, that is when Donald Trump goes on trial. That is when the first criminal trial of Donald J. Trump occurs in Manhattan. So I thought this would be a good week to, just take in between. Because once that starts, holy crap. And you know how hard that's going to be to cover? Because they don't want to put a camera in the courtroom, which would help all of us. It would help you to understand, help me to understand, help everybody to get their brain wrapped around what the hell kind of fraud he is or isn't. Okay? And we won't be able to do it. So there you have it. And I just felt like, now Congress is back next week. And Mike Johnson said I don't know, like out loud if he said it or if he said it in a prayer to his, to his supreme being, to his God. I don't know if he made a pact or a bond, with, little Katie Fundy voice over there in Congress. But he says he's going to fund Ukraine. At first, he said he was going to separate Israeli money from Ukrainian money, and he was going to give the Israeli money to the Israelis. But he wasn't going to give any Ukrainian defense packages. He wasn't going to give the Ukrainians anything, even though the Ukrainians are the innocent victims in all the wars that are going on around the globe right now. The only one that you could actually say has been invaded and has been the victim of aggression, has been the victim of an unprovoked invasion, is Ukraine. But they don't want to fund that. They want to, help Israel. I don't know. Well, let's see. Donald Trump had it. He was out loud. He went on Hugh Hewitt's show. And Hugh Hewitt was asking him, whether or not he supported what Israel was doing, whether or not he was down with it. His beef was it's bad PR. That's his beef. His beef is that they should go into Rafah and they should slaughter everybody and do it quickly. Yeah. So if you think that you're going to get a better deal, if you're pro, survival in Gaza, if you're pro, seeing people live another day in the Gaza Strip to try and rebuild after Hamas, to try and rebuild after their country has been leveled to the ground, to try to have a life, to try a two-state solution. Trump is not your guy. He's not your man.
Still standing 100% with Israel. You achieved the Abraham Accords, which was the first peace deal since Sadat. And so are you still 100% with Israel? And what's your advice to Netanyahu beyond get it over with in a hurry?
Well, that's all the advice you can give. I mean, that's the advice. You got to get it over with, and you have to get back to normalcy. And I'm not sure that I'm loving the way they're doing it because you got to have victory. You have to have a victory. And it's taking a long time. And the other thing is they put out tapes all the time. Every night they're releasing tapes of a building falling down. They shouldn't be releasing tapes like that. That's why they're losing the PR war. Israel is absolutely losing the PR war.
That's how I read your interview. I read your interview as saying they're losing the PR war. They've got to stop releasing bad video and win the war by going into Rafah.
They're releasing the most heinous, most horrible tapes of buildings falling down. And people are imagining there's a lot of people in those buildings or people in those buildings. And they don't like it. And I don't know why they release, wartime shots like that. I guess it makes them look tough. Okay. But to me, it doesn't make them look tough. They're losing the PR war, and they're losing it big. But they've got to finish what they started, and they got to finish it fast, and we have to get on with life.
He's pro-death, so we could get on with life. I just, wow, that is...
Yeah, because Trump knows all about great PR and controlling public image of someone or something.
Please don't do this to yourself, America. Please do not give yourself this man for another minute of power time. Don't, please. He's so stupid. He is just so dumb, really, honest to God. This is just like the most ignorant interview and he said a lot of crap, okay? 4 years ago.
It's a malaria drug. It's also a drug for lupus. And there's a study out that people with lupus aren't catching this horrible virus. They're not affected so much by it. Now, maybe that's correct. Maybe it's false. You're going to have to check it out.
You check it out.
But there's a lot of very positive things happening with that. That's a game changer if that's the case. Obviously, we continue to work on the vaccines, but the vaccines have to be down the road by probably 14, 15, 16 months.
That was his advice. People with lupus aren't getting COVID. That was his thing, right? And that's why you should take hydroxychloroquine. Just take it. Take it if you like. Candace in New Jersey.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I can take my question off the air, but I just wanted to know if there was any, did he have money invested in that drug? Because that's the way I felt when he said it. He doesn't do anything for the good of man.
Well, he had to.
Beyond
The thing he did that for was to give you some place to hang your hat, basically, something you could do, and keep your fingers crossed that it would work. And that's why he did that, and then shifted over to ivermectin, which was a parasite, for horses, for livestock, a parasite, drug.
Hi. Do I have to turn the TV down, right?
Okay, then. Thanks. What the hell?
It seemed like she was having a conversation with you and then wasn't having one. I don't know.
She was watching TV. She was watching the TV. She thought she was talking to you. Then she heard me after the delay and said
you may
hi.
be right about that. Yeah, you may be right. I don't know why.
I may be right.
Yeah, I don't know why
20 years I've been doing this, pal.
Why did she think she was talking to me? I don't sound like you.
She thought she was talking to you. That's why she said I could take my answer off the air.
I thought she was going to ask it and hang up and let you go.
No, she thought she was talking to you. And anyway. So I don't know if he has stock in anything. How would I know? He didn't even release his tax returns. He had to do, like undercover reporting. You had to be like a Brenda Starr reporter to even get 10 years old tax returns. The New York Times was able to do that. And then we, found out that everything about him was fraud, everything. But I think the reason why he was suggesting that you take this is because he had no other advice except we're in for a really bad time. And when he realized that people were being buried in mass and that, not Rikers Island, Potter's Field in New York, okay? Potter's Field they were digging mass graves in Potter's Field where people who have absolutely no money, they're the poorest of the poor, some homeless people, when they die, New York will bury them in Potter's Field in an unmarked grave for the most part. And they were digging these mass graves. Remember that? I mean, this is what we were going through 4 years ago. And he didn't know what to tell you. So he told you, try this. Try it. Take it. He didn't know what he was saying.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Israel's military has blamed its killing of the 7 World Central Kitchen aid workers on operational misjudgment and has expressed its, quote, deep sorrow. It says members of its armed forces were convinced they were hitting Hamas, but they were in violation of standard operating procedures.
Israel's military says it wrongly believed that a militant was inside one of the World Central Kitchen vehicles. It says after striking that car, it identified people moving to the second car, which it also hit, and then the third, killing all 7 aid workers. The report also found that the Israeli military's cameras failed to detect the markings on the World Central Kitchen vehicles. It confirms in large part the account of the attack given earlier this week by chef Jose Andres, World Central Kitchen's founder.
They were targeted systematically, car by car.
Israel also confirmed that World Central Kitchen was coordinating its movements in Gaza with the military.
All I can say at the moment is to offer my apologies and say that we share in the grief.
Despite the deaths of the aid workers, a spokesman for Israel's government insisted yesterday that Israel is setting a, quote, new gold standard in preventing civilian casualties.
Yet, President Biden has said that this was not a standalone incident and Israel has not done enough to protect civilians. I mean, is that a wake-up call for Israel?
Our fight is with Hamas, not the people of Gaza, and we will do our utmost to limit civilian casualties on both sides.
But the medical aid group Doctors Without Borders said yesterday it does not accept the incident was simply a mistake, claiming it's part of a pattern of deliberate attacks.
Humanitarian workers are protected. No ifs, no buts. We do not accept the narrative of regrettable incidents.
Regrettable incidents. Well, if this were the only one, maybe. But it isn't the only one. And this explanation, okay, so, I read the results, let's say, of the quick investigation into what happened. What happened? How did this drone operator get orders to systematically target 3 cars? That's an important word, car. 3 cars over about a mile of a deconflicted road after those cars were at the port. Why are they at the port? They're at the port to pick up the foodstuffs. Why are they at a port picking up foodstuffs from the sea? How come they're not picking up foodstuffs from trucks, aid trucks coming in? Huh? Okay. So the aid trucks aren't allowed to go in. The last time we had an aid truck go in, I think that was when I said, okay, that's it, I'm out. Do you remember why? Okay, that was because the aid trucks went in to Gaza and people actually, they were unescorted. There were no police escorts. There were no IDF escorts. There were no any escorts at all for protecting the trucks and the foodstuffs on those trucks to be delivered. Now, when you first saw what was happening there and you realized that people were so panicked that they wanted to get to those trucks and they just kind of swarmed, and you saw the drone footage from the sky and it looked like people were they looked like ants. There were so many people approaching those trucks, okay, trying to get some food off of those trucks, some packages off of those trucks. And what happened? What happened, everybody? Right. The military opened fire on the people that were trying to get the aid from the trucks. And so I was like, how does something like that happen? How does that, why were there no escorts for these valuable, foodstuffs after they were telling us, well, we can't bring trucks in because Hamas steals all this stuff. Remember, that was the first excuse about why we couldn't get aid into Gaza. Well, we can't bring aid into Gaza because Hamas just steals it and they bring it down to their tunnels and they take it for themselves and they don't give a damn about the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. Well, that seemed plausible until you actually do a deeper dive into the issue. And then you find out that the reason why there are no escorts for the trucks after saying that they understand that Hamas steals the stuff is because they were killing the police in Gaza, the Israelis, the IDF. They were killing the police in Gaza to the point where there are no police in Gaza. And that's how the trucks don't have any escorts. And people were able to swarm the trucks all at once. And of course, then the IDF is present and they freak out and they just killed all these civilians. I think there were like crazy numbers of dead people that day. It was like over 100 people were killed that day. And 706 or some enormous number of people were wounded that day. It was unbelievable to see something like that happen. And so I said, that's it. I'm out. Okay. Now we see the World Central Kitchen, 7 of those. So the explanation we got overnight, the explanation that the Israeli Defense Forces gave us was that they had no idea that the World Central Kitchen folks were going to be in cars. They thought that they would be in trucks. And so when they saw these cars going down the coastal road, which is right on the beach, which is the deconflicted road, supposedly. It's the road that the IDF told the World Central Kitchen to use when they were taking the stuff off of the ships that they had sent from Cyprus to Gaza. Now, that's why they're sending food by ship, because Israel said, well, we can't protect the trucks, so we can't send trucks. So they said, okay, we'll put it on ships and we'll bring it in that way. And they had just gotten done unloading from a ship. I think it was their ship, actually, that's called Open Arms. Okay. And it came from Spain to Cyprus, and Cyprus, got clearance to put it off the coast of Gaza, right? And so they had just unloaded 100 tons of food off of this ship, and they were going to deliver in cars. Now, the IDF said that didn't make any sense to them. They weren't expecting cars. They thought it would be on trucks. And so when they saw cars, they were suspicious. So they asked if anybody had seen anything at the port. And somebody at the port or multiple, they're not that specific, okay, in their reportage. But somebody at the port said that they had seen somebody armed on top of a truck. And that made them believe that it was Hamas, and Hamas was stealing the food. And so when they saw these cars moving, they thought that it was Hamas with stolen food. That's their explanation. Now, if you didn't know that 220 aid workers prior to the 7 World Kitchen were killed, if you didn't know that there were 100 people shot approaching an aid truck just a couple weeks ago and 706 wounded, and that the drone footage is terrifying, and it was 3 trucks, right? Remember, it was 3 trucks, and they were moving in, and the people were just swarming the trucks, and they got shot and killed and everything else. I mean, it was just bizarre behavior on the part of the Israeli Defense Forces, which most of this has been. And my guess is it's because you don't have the best and the brightest. You know, I'm sure Netanyahu knows all the best people. I'm sure he does. And I'm sure it's very similar, you know, to something we've experienced with, you know, the military literally just, throwing pepper spray in the faces of peaceful protesters in Lafayette Square so that the president could cross Lafayette Square and hold the Bible upside down in the name of fundamentalism and appealing to the fundies among us. Well, you know, Netanyahu's audience is also ultra. They're not ultra MAGA, they're ultra Orthodox. You know, the Ayatollah also has to play to an ultra audience. They're not ultra MAGA, they're ultra Islamic. Can you see the problem now when you get a call from a guy in Alabama and he's freaked out that they're ultra people there, they're ultra fundamentalist people there, want to arrest librarians? Don't you think that perhaps we share a problem? Don't you think perhaps Americans and normal people of, normal persuasions, whether they believe in a system that's like your system or no system or a system that's a little bit different from your system, but they're not fundamentalist about the system, don't you think that they deserve to be recognized as just trying to make it in a fundamentalist society?
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal. To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America. Believe it. Help is on the way. Knock, knock. Who's there? It's a figment of your imagination. Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
The March jobs report out this morning, blowing past expectations, with the U.S. adding 303,000 jobs in March. A sign of the labor market's resilience as unemployment edges slightly lower at 3.8%. And here with us now, NBC senior business correspondent Christine Roman. So more than 300,000 jobs added.
I would say this is a booming job market. I mean, this is the number, as you know, Anna, that everyone on Wall Street watches, everyone inside the Beltway watches. And what it's telling us is that on Main Street, companies are hiring and jobs are being added. We can look at what these numbers look like. Look at this. The highest job creation, 303,000 in any era, is a strong job creation. It's the most since last spring, really. And it shows you this consistent, strong hiring over and over again. Where are we seeing these jobs? Healthcare. These are hospitals, nursing homes, ambulatory care centers, just anything you can think of in healthcare is hiring. Government jobs, construction jobs, these tend to be pretty high paid. And leisure and hospitality is now back where it was before the pandemic. So really important progress there. And the unemployment rate at 3.8%. This is the longest stretch below 4% for the jobless rate, Anna, since the 1960s, a period that was was another booming economy. One thing about these numbers I think it's really important to note, 4.1% was the wage growth. That means the typical paycheck is growing faster than inflation, growing faster than the grocery bill. People in the polls say they don't feel it. You know, this number shows you that things are pretty good on Main Street, but people don't feel it. I think those inflation scars are running very, very deep.
Very deep, everybody, very deep. Yes, the the hangover, the recovery from the Trump years has taken 3 years. And still people are, not accepting that we've made an amazing recovery. I mean, 39 straight months of job growth. 39. I mean, jobs are growing faster than like kudzu, man. It's like the most amazing job growth period. 39 months in a row. So, can I just say, if you think immigrants are taking your job, they're leaving a lot of openings. So, quit bitching about that. They're leaving you plenty of work. So, I mean, it's unbelievable. Another round of economic growth that is so good that Fox News can't even cover it. Isn't that something? So Fox Business obviously had to cover it. They had to because it's Fox Business. Fox News doesn't want to cover any of this. It's just like so amazingly freaky to see like reality just pass them by because it's not the narrative they want spoken. They want to say Biden's a failure. They want to say inflation's out of control. You know, and when you poll people, 75. This is why polls are garbage. I have to tell you. I mean, we were supposed to have the big red wave. Remember that? The big red wave. It was going to be like the scene when the elevator doors open in The Shining. Remember that? And everybody was groping for movie references for the big red wave that never happened, never appeared, because it was bullcrap. So anyway, they don't want anybody to tell their viewers that wages are rising faster than inflation, and that inflation has been coming down to the point where if you take out food and you take out energy and you just isolate food and energy and you look to see if inflation is still present in food prices and energy prices, the answer is no. So people don't understand what inflation is sometimes. So inflation means rising prices. Some people think inflation means gouging. No, that would be corporate gouging. That has nothing to do with our economy. It has nothing to do with the Fed. It has to do with corporations seeing the costs that they have to pay to create whatever it is, and a loaf of bread, go down, but still keep charging you an enormous amount of money for it as if the cost of their input, their production was going up. That's gouging. And the answer for that is a windfall tax, a windfall profits tax, or an anti-gouging law. You understand? So that would be the Democrats wanting to do those things, but not the Republicans. So the Republicans' whole approach is don't tell anybody. Don't tell them. Don't tell them that their wages are increasing faster than inflation. Inflation was 6% last year at this time. It is now down to 3.2%. That is decreasing inflation. But 74% of Americans still think that there's a bad vibe out there. I'm not kidding. This is how it got reported. It got reported as, by a Harvard economist working for the Brookings Institution. And she was asked, why is there this big disconnect between what's real and what people think is real? And she's like, well, the vibe is bad because, people have been through too much. Well, I agree with that. I mean, I get that there's been trauma and that the trauma that's been heaped upon us has been heaped upon us by neglect, by, not being worthy of the job you hold, being a poor leader, being somebody who can't manage recoveries, being somebody that, their entire way of coping and dealing with bad news is to either ignore it or to say it's a lie, it's a hoax, right? And when that is what you have for leadership, when that is the acumen of the person in charge of the economy or the supply chain or disease, pandemic, advice, or pandemic, sending out PPE, or helping people, cope and deal, sending out stimulus checks, which, by the way, the only reason why we got stimulus checks was because of Nancy Pelosi, right? And then Trump held up the distribution of those checks because he wanted to put his signature on them, and he wanted to put a little letter in there telling people, you're getting this because of me, even though it wasn't because of him. He didn't want to do a stimulus. He didn't want to give people help. He didn't want to do anything on the, food shortages. He didn't want to do anything on PPE. In fact, Jared was out there saying that the federal stockpile of PPE was his. Remember that? It belongs to the federal government. This is not for the states. This is not for the people. And nurses were wearing garbage bags. Yeah, they did a great job. They did really well with it. It was just, wow, let's do that again. See, that would make you insane. You understand? Or a fundamentalist, which could be construed as being the same thing at this point. And, this is the whole thing that everybody has to learn. Whenever you go all the way to the right, all the way to the fundamentalist right, all the way to religious fervor, all the way to, saying the laws of man are not good enough. Now we have to go to Sharia law, or we have to go to fundamentalist interpretation of the Bible, or we have to go to ultra-Orthodox interpretation of the Torah. See, this is happening in places that you can actually see, like Alabama. No, seriously, all jokes aside. This is happening in Texas. In Lubbock, they're not kidding. In Lubbock, you can't use a road in the county of Lubbock to get somebody into a car, to get a woman into a car, to transport her to a place outside of Texas where she might get care for a pregnancy gone bad. You can't even let her transit on a road in Lubbock. I mean, tell me that is any different from you can't have a woman go out without her head covered. How is that different? It isn't. It's fundamentalist garbage making its way into the laws of man. And so, like I said, you can look over there and you can see what happens when you listen to ultra-Orthodox or ultra-fundamentalists or ultra-Islamists or ultra anything. It doesn't turn out well for any living thing. It just doesn't. And I'm telling you right now, the reason why a whole chunk of Israelis are on the street protesting has nothing to do with what you think it does. It has to do with the ultra-Orthodox. They don't want to serve in the military. Yeah, that's why they're out on the street.
RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
All right, it's Friday, 20 after. Greg in North Carolina.
Yeah, hey, Randy. I want to talk about the Israeli strikes. But first of all, you said the Trump pepper sprayed people. Actually, if you took the time to read the Inspector General of the Department of the Interior, Mark Greenblatt, he wrote, the evidence does not support the finding the United States Park Police cleared the park on June 1st so that Trump could enter the park. The protest was removed instead to allow a contractor to safely install anti-scaling fence in response to destruction of federal property and injury to officers that occurred May 30th and 31st during the Black Lives Matter protests. So get your facts straight.
What? Where am I wrong?
You said Trump pepper sprayed people so he could go in the park. That wasn't true.
Yeah, it's true. I have video. We can see it on the tape, okay?
No. Well, why don't you read the Inspector General's report?
Why don't you look at believe your own freaking eyes?
Well, he
Never
saw
mind.
the video.
You
and he
didn't
wrote
call
it in his
about
report.
that. You called about that? Is that what you called about?
Yeah, I called
okay.
it.
All right, let's. I didn't know that's what he was calling about, or I would have had the tape ready.
That's not what he was calling about. He just sprung that. Obviously, he didn't
well,
mention a word about it.
I have tape of that, so
but he didn't mention a word about it when we set up the call. He was going to talk about, the strikes.
I'll just. Hello.
Why can't you?
Why? What did you call about? I will go get the tape.
I called you about the
I'm
drone
sorry
strike.
that the minute that you bring something up, I don't have the tape to show you, but there is obviously tape.
So the Inspector General, Mark Greenblatt, was
So
lying. when he
you
wrote
want
his
me to
report.
not believe my own eyes? Okay.
Okay. Oh, you don't want to read the report?
I'm
it
with
doesn't
you.
agree
Yeah,
with you.
I should
Hey, how many
read
people-
a report
Hey,
instead of
Randy.
believing my own eyes.
Hey,
Okay,
Randy, how many people did?
Oh my God! Somebody get the tape, please. Just get it. Just get the goddamn tape.
By basically every metric we have, the American economy is roaring, but voters don't think so. And we have been tracking for months now this wild disconnect between what people are telling pollsters about the economy and what we know about the economy from the copious data we have. The latest such polling comes from the Wall Street Journal, which found that 74% of respondents in swing states think inflation has gotten worse in the past year. As Greg Ip, the paper's chief economic commentator, wrote today, this assessment, which holds across all 7 states, is startling, sobering, and simply not true. I'm not stating an opinion. This isn't something on which reasonable people can disagree. If hard economic data count for anything, we can say unambiguously that inflation has moved in the right direction in the past year. And it's not just improving inflation numbers. The stock market is at or near record highs. Real wages and real household wealth are rising, particularly at the bottom of the income scale. Unemployment is as low as it has been in nearly half a century and stayed low as the economy has grown. The U.S. economy is not only strong, it is the best in the world among peer countries. But the polling does not reflect that. And one thing we've seen, is that poll respondents have been, during this period of the disconnect, more bullish, in some cases way more bullish about their personal finances than they are about the country's. Well, this Wall Street Journal polling adds a twist to that. So take a look at this chart. The Journal is polling folks in these 7 swing states, right? And they asked the people in those 7 swing states, has your state's economy gotten better in the last 2 years? Not the U.S., but Arizona or Georgia or Michigan. Some people said better, some people said worse, but this chart shows that far more people said, yes, my state's economy has improved. Right at the top, there's Arizona. 31% more people said Arizona's economy was going in the right direction. It had improved in the last 2 years. There were net positives in all of those states. See it? Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Vast majorities in all of the swing states said, yes, their state economy, the one I actually live in, the one I do economy stuff in, it's gotten better. The Journal then asked all those people, these are the same people, in all those 7 states, has the American economy gotten better or worse in the last 2 years? And this bar represents how they responded to that question. 31% more people said the national economy is getting worse, even as they are wildly bullish on their own state economy. Quite a contrast on the chart. As the Journal's Greg Ip wrote, when it comes to the economy, the vibes are at war with the facts, and the vibes are winning.
The vibes are winning, everybody. So let's not believe our own eyes. Let's not believe our own experience. Let's believe vibes. Let's believe, I don't know. I don't know what has gotten over, into, I don't know. But the Secret Service said it did use pepper spray. That's all I know. Okay, that's all I know. So my crack producer there, he says he found something, but I don't have it. So I don't know what do you want.
No, that was definitely his plan to put one topic on the call and then hit you with some sideways
that's
thing
what
that
he does,
that he
and
knew you wouldn't be prepared for. That is exactly what he does.
But that's not true, what he just said, that they didn't use pepper spray. I mean, it's just not true. They did use pepper spray. The Secret Service said they used pepper spray. We had the little green men on the steps, standing there with no, indication of where they came from. Like, were they DC police? Were they nobody FBI? Nobody knew. They were, and it turned out that they were prison guards. They were prison guards. They were extraction teams. I mean, what is wrong with people? I mean, is your memory really so addled at this point that you can't remember seeing people being pepper sprayed so that Donald Trump and his freaking daughter could whip out of her purse a Bible, and he could stand in front of that church and hold it up upside down for some fundamentalist MAGA base to see, that he would pepper spray people, he would, literally almost beat people, almost shoot people in order to get to the church to hold up a Bible upside. I don't know why your memory is so piss poor. Really, I can't explain it. But you lied. I mean, the thing that you said you wanted to talk about is not anything that you just talked about. And I went to your phone call yet again after, and you still kept talking about what you lied about. And there he is. He's still there.
It's probably him, and we discussed it. We know.
But I
what
still
he
don't
is,
have the
and
tape. Okay.
Let's see who it is. Let's see.
No, I still don't have the tape. What?
I get you. I'm saying let's see who this new call is.
He says he's pulling it and processing it. It's in the archive, okay? We covered this. I don't even understand what's going on. I mean, it's time for a vacation is all I know. That's all I know. And why is he bringing that crap up? I mean, I guess I did. Okay, I guess I did. Anyway, I mean, it's such a red herring. I don't understand, what the point of any of this is, that he does. What is the point? Moral equivalency? What are you saying, that Donald Trump was a great president? Is that your point? That he didn't do any of the things we saw him do, or he didn't tell you to take hydroxychloroquine? He didn't tell you that people with lupus don't get COVID? He didn't tell you that it was a hoax? He didn't tell you that, he didn't crash the economy? We didn't lose, 800,000 jobs in 1 month? That didn't happen? Because why? You read a section of a report?
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Okay.
Donald Trump began his walk over to this church last June just 21 minutes after the park police and other law enforcement forcefully and violently cleared this area of protesters. But this new report says that action was taken so that a fence could be built and that there is no evidence that the police acted to make room for the president's photo op. It's perhaps the most infamous photo op of his presidency. Donald Trump holding up a Bible in front of St. John's Church last summer. Just 21 minutes before he began his walk to the church, protesters were forcefully removed from the surrounding area by park police and other law enforcement. It appeared to clear the way for the president. But now an internal investigation says there is no evidence the operation had anything to do with Trump's walk from the White House to the church.
We did not find evidence that a potential presidential visit to the park or the St. John's Church influenced the park police's decision-making or their deployment.
According to the report, demonstrators were pushed out to allow contractors to build a fence, a response to damage done during the 2 previous nights of rioting. The report says the park police didn't even know about the president's intentions until they had made their own plans. The operation turned violent and injured many, including this Australian news crew, as they tried to evacuate, something not addressed by the report. But the report did find that tear gas and other chemical irritants were used against the crowd, and that most people could not hear the audio warning issued before the police moved in.
Okay.
That was not video of people being tear gassed, Randi. That was not.
That was exactly on point. That was exactly what he was saying he believed. He believed Greenblatt's report that they were building a fence on that day, and that's what was going on, and that there was no tear gas. It was just fence building, and that I made crap up. I'm a liar. I'm sorry, but that was a whitewash. Greenblatt's freaking report was junk. It was garbage in, garbage out. And what about that Australian camera crew? Remember that? You remember that? They got punched in the face. They were knocked on the ground. And then everybody... You want to see some slow-mo? Here's some slow-mo of the D.C. police, actually. Look at that. There's the deployment weapon. I don't even know what to call that. It's not on the screen. Brett, put it on the screen. Brett, put it on the screen. Okay, this is the slow-mo, okay? See, there's the deployment weapon. I don't know what that, is actually called because I'm not a police officer that uses pepper spray. But this was pointed right at the crowd because why? They were fence building and they had to build the fence right then, right there. So they needed to shoot at the crowd, Greg. Are you freaking kidding me with this?
And he brought the show to a halt again because I was dealing with this call that's why I was late.
Was that him too?
Yes, it was him again.
Oh. Greg, I'm not taking your call anymore, so leave us alone today because truly you got on my last nerve. I'm looking forward to a wonderful vacation. That's where my head is at. It was Friday. We wanted to have a show that sort of explained, that the economy was good and let people know that Fox doesn't report that because they don't like the narrative. And that, this is a madman who was a mad president who literally told you that a pandemic that brought our economy to a screeching halt was a hoax and told you to take a lupus drug that actually caused a run on the lupus drug to the point where people who had lupus couldn't get their medication. I mean, this is the sicko that you're defending here with his hired gun. I mean, this is like, saying, Aileen Cannon, she's a judge. You don't believe her? No, I don't. The woman is actually asking for jury instructions and hasn't set a date for trial yet. Don't you get that this man literally is the worst thing that ever happened to our economy? The worst thing that ever happened to our health. 1 million Americans died, and he was saying it was a hoax. And Jared is saying that the PPE, the federal stockpile, belonged to him, not to the states. I mean, these are the people that you're going to defend, and they're handpicked. He was an acting IG, okay? Because nobody wanted to work for Donald Trump and cover up his crimes. Bill Barr did for a little bit, but then he had already had, at the end, he said, I'm not going to say the election was rigged because there's no evidence at all. And I would be left standing there with, my hands empty. Now, I could manage the PR around the Mueller report by delaying its release and then releasing it 3 weeks later, redacted, so nobody could make heads or tails of it. That's the best I can do for you. And he was willing to do that as the Attorney General of the United States. And you want me to believe Greenblatt, who lied. And there were so many reports about that lie and so many videotapes of that day that it literally shocks the conscience that that's the crap that you call me with, knowing. Anyway, I don't care. Jahari in Michigan.
Hello, my dear.
Hello.
Happy Friday.
Yeah.
You know, guys like that, I just brush them aside. They will never.
Well, I would say this. I just have to say that if we had more calls, he would never get through. But the problem is that people always say to Brett, I don't want to go on the air. I just want to say this. Or I don't want to go on the air. I just want to say that. Whatever. I don't know. This is like a new thing that this never used to happen, but it happens all the time now. And so the phone lines are sometimes left completely open. An idiot boy calls and calls and calls and calls and calls and, lies and totally derails everything that we're trying to get done in a day. So.
Yeah, he impedes the momentum of the show, and he has nothing really constructive to say. I've actually listened to other shows like Tom Hartman. Stephanie actually had a guy that said that he was a former Rush listener who's been converted by you and her.
Right,
and
I understand that, but for some strange reason they don't call me, and I don't know what that is about, frankly. But
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, wanted to talk about the election. Biden's got it if he holds on to Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. he's at 270 right there, even without Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia. But we know that he's going to pick up Florida, North Carolina, and Georgia.
Well, I don't know about pick up Florida, but I do know that because, a constitutional amendment to protect women and our rights is going to be on the ballot, that a lot of younger, voters will show up,
And they're forecasting Texas as leaning as a lean Republican, but not Democratic. But
so that's
we'll
why
see.
that's why that Colin Allred race against Ted Cruz. When I look at it and I see that it's dead even, dead even, I have hope for Texas. I do.
Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
David, the whole idea that any voter is choosing between the lesser of two evils, I know that's a conversation that happens off TV all the time. I can't let it go, though, because one is truly running on evil ideas, like calling human beings subhuman. I mean, a human is by nature not subhuman, they're human. And the notion, and this is our failure, right? The horror and the reaction was proportionate to the horror of the things he said when he called all Mexicans who come here rapists and murderers. But we are failing.
Yes.
This is a huge deal. And there's an architect putting policy behind the venom. His name is Stephen Miller. And the plans for if you were horrified by the Muslim ban, buckle up. Because Trump doesn't accidentally call migrants subhuman. He says it because the campaign is about putting policy behind that to treat humans, some of them, as subhuman.
And she's right. The media is failing. The media is failing terribly, terribly at letting people know that this election is not a choice between the lesser of two evils. This is an election for the character, for the democracy itself, for the rule of law itself, for the rights of people to move freely about this country or to be put in camps, the right for all people, all humans to be considered humans. I mean, this is what's on the ballot. This is where we're at. And when you see old, disgusting, cranky men like, Greg, whose entire, fun thing to do is to crank call, shows. It's what he does. It's not just me that he calls. He calls every one of our shows. Okay. And to just spew rot and horror, and make some sort of moral equivalency between the rot and horror of what Trump did in Lafayette Square Park or what Trump did, helping in Syria or, when children were gassed. And he's trying to make some moral equivalency between a guy who let 1 million Americans die because it was a hoax, right? And then just sought to blame somebody for it because he lost his election because of his poor management of a pandemic, a poor management of what was going on in this country. And he lost and he kept on losing and he's going to lose again. But they want to make some sort of moral equivalency. And like I said, when the narrative doesn't fit certain media outlets, when the narrative doesn't fit, like the economy is good, we've had 39 months of straight growth, the stock market is having a banner year. If you have a 401k, it should have increased by 19%. Okay, you should have done really well. Interest rates on regular savings accounts have gone up as a result of raising interest rates. So, people are doing better. Some people aren't doing great because 40% are not invested in the stock market. They don't have access to a 401k or they don't have any, investments at all. They're literally, just sitting it out or feel like they can't part with a nickel or whatever it is. So 40% of America doesn't realize. And those are the people whose grievances an entire apparatus of media is playing to. And so when the news comes out that 60% of America is doing really well, that wages are going up faster than inflation, that the president of the United States is doing really well on, managing a terrible inherited shedding of jobs, almost a Great Depression, and that he brought us back in a soft landing scenario. The people who are watching, the other side's media and how facts have sides now. It's anathema to democracy, but there are sides to facts now, right? And so whenever the facts don't play into the narrative, they just don't talk about it. They just leave it out. They just don't report on it. And so we are failing. We're failing as a nation. We're failing as a media. We're failing as a bunch of news reporters. And it's like I said, if it wasn't on TV, it didn't happen. So, obviously, the Biden campaign, they had this amazing thing the other day in New York City. They didn't air it. It wasn't on the TV. That made no sense to me. That made no sense to anybody. It's just crazy. This is madness. It really is madness. What's going on? But before we go for the week, because it's Friday, I just wanted to tell you that when people who are aware of what the Heritage Foundation is plotting and planning, when people are aware of what Stephen Miller is doing by calling people subhuman, you know who else called people animals? You know who else did? The Israeli military. Remember at the beginning? They actually were saying that the people in the Strip were not even human. They were animals. You can see how that doesn't turn out well when you start to dehumanize humans. Never turns out well. Just never does. You don't even have to go back to the 1930s to find a contemporary example of dehumanizing human beings. You can, go to last week and hear Donald Trump do it, or the week before, and hear, or 4 months ago, and hear, another democracy's leaders do it. It's really pretty sad and sick. And the media is failing. They're just they're failing to clue everybody in on the choice before us and how amazing the choice really is and what's at stake. But before we go, I just wanted to let you know that the people who are aware of the Project 2025 and the Schedule F, to route out the deep state. Listen, I'm telling you, if Donald Trump and his ilk think that there was a deep state or believe that there is a deep state, they were it. They were it. Okay. The idea that Bill Barr was behaving not as Attorney General of the United States, but as Trump's personal attorney, that's a deep state operative. That's what they're alleging we do, but we don't do it. They do it. Anyway, they're very hip to the idea that they want to, that Steve Bannon sits on his, little platform there, that the right-wing lunatic fringy Rumble platform, and says all the time, we're ready now. We got the shock troops, and we're going to put them into the government. We got Schedule F. Schedule F is something Donald Trump did. It was a really evil thing to do. We have career civil servants, people who are not aligned with any party. They're not political appointees. They're not, there because a president put them there of any persuasion. They're not there because Obama put them there. They're not there because Trump put them there. They're not there because, Biden put them there or Clinton. They're there because they're civil servants, because they took the civil servants exam, and because they have some expertise in the area in which they are employed, and probably at a much lesser, definitely at a much lesser salary for their level of expertise than they could get in the private sector. But they do it because there's a couple of reasons. Some of them are just doing it because they really do care about the government functioning. And a lot of them do it because there's pensions and they can retire early and they can have a nice retirement, etc. That's why a lot of people join the military for that reason too. Some join for patriotism and others join because you do 20 years, you're 40 years old, you're done. You're done. So there's a lot to be said for, being a civil servant. However, Donald Trump decided that he was going to come up with this thing called Schedule F, where he took away civil service protection for civil servants and made them sort of the beck and call girls of the president, of him. And he could fire 2.2 million civil service workers if they weren't loyal to him. And being a civil servant has nothing to do with the president and his agenda. It has nothing to do with the president and his policy. It has to do with your area of expertise and whether or not you're good at it. If you're not good at it, or you're found to have, lied or misrepresented your area of expertise, you're fired. That's how you get fired. But Donald Trump put those 2.2 million people's jobs at risk if they weren't taking loyalty oaths to him. Biden has just gotten rid of section the Schedule F. He got rid of it today, which is he issued rules for the Office of Personnel and Management. That's the OPM. That's where civil servants are hired and fired. He issued rules to prevent federal employees from being unfairly fired based on their loyalty to a president, including loyalty to Donald Trump. And he did it ahead of the possibility of another Trump presidency, because Trump will require everyone to take loyalty oaths to him. This is what Steve Bannon's fantasy is. This is what Stephen Miller's fantasy is. And that you would get people in like the Department of Homeland Security to set up the camps. And if they refused, they'd be fired. See what I mean? So that was a little bright spot. So if Trump gets back in, God help us all, the people who do their jobs well are safe.